What if the royal family's biggest secret isn't what you think? What if Meghan Markle's picture-perfect motherhood, the glowing pregnancy photos, the public appearances with Archie and Lilibet is nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion? For years, we've been fed the same polished story. But behind the smiles and staged moments, cracks are showing. From claims made by her own family to strange inconsistencies no one seems willing to explain, the question keeps getting louder. Did Meghan Markle ever actually give birth to her children? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change everything you thought you knew about the royal saga. It didn't start with tabloid gossip or internet trolls. It started with Meghan's own family. Long before Prince Harry entered the picture, Meghan's father dropped a bombshell that barely made a ripple in the mainstream media. According to him, Meghan had frozen her eggs years ago. On its own, that might seem like a smart, private decision for any woman thinking about the future. But that's where it gets strange. Meghan's brother reportedly added that she didn't just freeze her eggs, she had a hysterectomy soon after. That's right. If their claims are true, Meghan wouldn't have been able to carry a pregnancy at all by the time she met Harry. And here's where things take a turn that no fairy tale script can explain. These claims didn't surface during some messy public feud, they were calmly shared, almost like facts. But if that's the case, how did Meghan and Harry go on to present the world with two biological children, born just a few years later? The timeline doesn't add up. And yet, no one in the royal family, no major media outlet, seems interested in asking the obvious question. Instead, the story of Meghan's motherhood has been accepted without challenge, at least, until people started connecting the dots for themselves. Because if this part of the narrative is false, what else is being hidden? Now, let's break down something that most people completely overlook: the cost. Freezing your eggs isn't just a one-time procedure. It's expensive to keep them stored, especially for years. Insiders say the price for long-term storage runs between $8,000 to $9,000 every single month. That's a massive bill for anyone, let alone someone who, at the time, wasn't exactly living like royalty. Back then, Meghan wasn't the global icon we know today. She was still grinding it out on Suits, earning about $7,000 per episode. And according to reports, she didn't even appear in every episode. When you add up her total screen time across the entire show, it barely amounts to a couple of hours. Not exactly the kind of paycheck that covers luxury egg storage while living in Los Angeles or Toronto. So, here's the question no one seems to want to ask. If Meghan had frozen her eggs, how did she afford to keep them stored for so long? And if she couldn't, what happened to them? The timeline and finances don't match the fairy tale we've been sold. Which leaves us staring at an even bigger puzzle. If her eggs weren't viable anymore, how did she later present two biological children as her own? The deeper you dig, the more the story starts to crumble. Here's where things get even stranger, the part that really makes people stop and stare. For a couple who constantly claims to value family, where are the moments that show it? Think about it. How many times have we seen Meghan share genuine, unscripted affection with her kids? The messy hugs, the spontaneous kisses, the kind of moments every parent has, especially when they're in the public eye as much as she and Harry are. Instead, what we see feels staged. Every appearance of Archie or Lilibet looks polished, posed, like they're part of a photo shoot instead of a family outing. And it hasn't gone unnoticed. People started picking apart these rare public sightings, pointing out how the children often seem awkward, like they're unsure of their place in the scene. At Disneyland, on one day, a little girl is seen with them. The next day, that same little girl looks completely different, sparking wild theories that stand-ins might be used for public appearances. This isn't just nitpicking. When you combine the lack of warm, natural interactions with the eerie perfection of the photos, you start to wonder, is this real family life or a carefully managed performance? And if the missing maternal moments weren't strange enough, the so-called moon bump footage pushed suspicion into overdrive. There's video out there slowed down, zoomed in, analyzed frame by frame, showing Meghan's pregnancy belly shifting in ways that just don't make sense. We're not talking about a normal wobble or the awkward angle of a camera shot. We're talking about a shape that folds, bends, and moves like foam padding. Like a prop. One clip, in particular, shows her squatting down, and in that instant, the belly appears to collapse slightly before popping back into place. For many viewers, that was the moment they stopped giving the benefit of the doubt. It wasn't just odd, it looked like a mistake from the props department in a low-budget movie. And it happened during a time when COVID restrictions were at their strictest. No casual hospital visits, no media crews wandering through maternity wards. So why was Meghan filmed in what appeared to be a stage scene inside a hospital, belly and all, while the world was locked down? The footage raised a chilling possibility. If the pregnancy was faked, was there ever any intention to come clean? Or was the plan always to build the perfect royal parent image, no matter what it took? If the public appearances raised eyebrows, the official paperwork set off alarm bells. Birth certificates, documents that should be simple, routine, became another strange piece of the puzzle. Reports surfaced that Meghan had her royal title removed from Archie's birth certificate, only to have it added back later. That's not normal. In fact, in the US, royal titles aren't supposed to appear as part of a legal name at all. So how did those details make it onto official documents without anyone questioning it? And then there's what insiders claim happened behind the scenes. Immigration officials reportedly found the paperwork so unusual that they reached out directly to King Charles for clarification. Think about that. Immigration agencies don't just contact monarchs unless something looks seriously off. This wasn't just a clerical error, it was a red flag. All of this fuels the bigger question. If Meghan and Harry were being honest about the births, why all the secrecy? Why the odd edits to legal records? The inconsistencies that don't add up. When you start putting these details side by side with the moon bump footage, the lack of real maternal moments, and the family's claims, it stops looking like coincidence. It starts looking like a cover-up. While Meghan takes most of the spotlight, there's no denying that Harry isn't just standing by silently. He's not the clueless prince caught up in someone else's game. He's actively shaping the story right alongside her. Think about it. This is the same man who spent years blasting the media, claiming he wanted to protect his family from the spotlight. And yet, here he is, smiling for the cameras when it suits their image, calling the paparazzi when it's convenient, and then turning around to sue them when it's not. And what about those royal titles? Harry has reportedly pushed hard behind the scenes to secure HRH status for Archie and Lilibet, even though the late Queen had made it clear no HRH titles for those who stepped back from royal duties. But Harry kept pushing. And insiders say King Charles eventually caved, handing over the titles like party favors. It's not hard to see why people are suspicious. If there's nothing to hide, why go to such lengths to lock down royal status for the children? The truth is, Harry's not just along for the ride. He's helping drive the narrative. And every time he doubles down on the perfect family image, the cracks in the story become even harder to ignore. And here's the part that leaves people shaking their heads: the silence from the palace. For an institution that guards its image with military precision, the royal family's refusal to address these growing questions is, frankly, bizarre. No statements, no clarifications, no pushback. Just quiet acceptance, as if pretending the issue doesn't exist will make it go away. But in reality, that silence speaks volumes. Because at a certain point, staying silent stops looking like dignity or restraint. It starts to look like complicity. The monarchy's entire reputation rests on the idea of tradition, honesty, and duty. So why would they allow their image to be tied to a story that so many people believe is full of holes? Why keep Meghan and Harry's profiles on the official royal website? Why continue to give them the royal platform while the public trust crumbles? Some say it's fear, that the palace doesn't want to spark another media firestorm. Others believe it's about shame, about protecting the institution from a scandal that could rock it to its core. But whatever the reason, one thing is clear: By saying nothing, the palace may be doing the most damage of all. Because when those at the top turn a blind eye, the whole house of cards starts to wobble. If you've ever felt like every time questions about Meghan's kids heat up, some new distraction suddenly grabs headlines, you're not imagining it. This is where the PR playbook kicks in. Remember when that video of Meghan twerking went viral? It just so happened to surface right when fresh questions about the children's birth stories were starting to trend. Coincidence? Maybe. But to many, it felt like classic misdirection. Stir up a new controversy, get people arguing about something else, and shift the spotlight away from the uncomfortable questions. And it works for a while. The headlines change, social media gets loud, and the tough questions fade into the background. But here's the catch: each time this happens, public trust erodes a little more. The constant flood of curated images, polished interviews, and carefully timed scandals starts to feel less like reality and more like a long-running PR campaign. People are noticing the pattern. They're asking, if there's nothing to hide, why the need for so much distraction? Why not just clear the air, put the rumors to rest, and show the world the truth? Because the longer the smoke and mirrors go on, the more people start to believe there really is something being hidden, something bigger than anyone expected. When you piece it all together, the strange family claims, the missing maternal moments, the shifting belly, the odd paperwork, and the palace's silence, it doesn't feel like coincidence anymore. It feels like a carefully crafted illusion that's starting to crack. And the harder Meghan and Harry try to act normal, to project the image of the perfect royal family, the more obvious those cracks become. At first, people gave them the benefit of the doubt. But now, the questions are getting louder. If everything is as it seems, why all the smoke and mirrors? Why not prove once and for all what's true? Because here's the truth, this stopped being about personal privacy a long time ago. When you use royal titles, when you trade on the monarchy's legacy, when you ask the public for trust, you owe them honesty. And as the dots keep connecting, as the inconsistencies pile up, the illusion can't hold forever. At some point, the truth will break through, and when it does, it won't just be Meghan and Harry facing the fallout. It could shake the very foundation of the royal family itself. Because if this really is one of the biggest image deceptions in royal history, everyone who helped protect it will be part of the scandal. What do you think is really going on behind the scenes? Is this just wild speculation, or are we looking at one of the biggest royal cover-ups of all time? Drop your thoughts in the comments.